Welcome to PPR podcast number 70. It's brought to you by Renovation Realty. And I've been wanting to talk to this guy, Bert.
Cue the bagpipes. John Thomas O'Sullivan.
The pipes are calling. OJT, thank you for making time for us. I know you got other things to do, so this is really generous of yours, in spirit of helping us out in PPR. Can I ask a tough question first?
I'm ready for it. I was getting fired up with you singing.
Why are you not coaching at this? Is this a? Why did you step down? That seemed like you built this program into something special, and just when you're on the cusp, you stepped away. Why?
I am coaching. Our 10U soccer team out here in Coronado, Rec, is on fire. I don't think they've lost in 2 years. No, it's I mean, there's a lot of reasons. I think the biggest reason is just, and you guys know this, I mean, the amount of time that goes into those roles.
Yes.
It's hard to sustain for a number of different reasons. And so we're really proud of what we did over there and the experience that we gave to our athletes, and felt like it was the right time to hand it off to somebody else.
So let me follow that.
Well, because he's got a lot of, I mean, the family issues, right? I mean, you got a ton. It's like you got a bunch of ankle biters right now, right?
We've got 3 young dudes that are all into sports, and I've always said that I'm going to do everything in my power to never miss those games, and so just a special time in life, and try to enjoy those times as much as I can.
So I want to ask you a follow-up. That what are you teaching your son that his game of the week he picked to go see Torrey Pines run on wing tee as an offensive guru? How does that come about?
I mean, you guys were there too. The pickings were interesting for the first week. They always are the first week of the playoffs, and so he wanted to see Division I football, and it was fun to see them go out there and compete. It was fun to see. I'd never been to a Torrey game before. That pregame where they walk through the stands is pretty cool.
It is. I agree with you.
So on a family note, so I mean, I understand the young ones and the time concerns. Say Coach Kurt Hines took a job at another school and Coronado was open. You live in Coronado. Would that be of interest to you, or are you just totally out of high school?
I mean, it really doesn't matter where it is. I'm not that interested right now. It's just one of those things where, and that would almost probably be the opposite of what I would be looking for, if that makes sense. No offense to Coach, he's doing a great job, and they've got it rolling for where they're at. But it's one of those things where, it's such an investment, both personally and for your family, that I think I'm always admire people who coach where they live, because that's a lot of ball all the time. You can't get away from it.
Right.
Yeah, and there was that. I mean, everybody thought when, you resigned or stepped down, I mean, you went to a Catholic high school, Saints came open about the same week. I mean, I think everybody in town thought you were automatically going to Saints. I was surprised you weren't, that you were actually...
You guys could have asked.
Well, I did.
I think Paul, you might have asked.
I
don't
did.
remember what I said.
I was on the blower right away, and you were straight.
I was honest.
Yeah, you were very.
Yeah.
So I understand it. I completely get it. While it's a different line of work, the hours invested in putting on a high school football show is very similar to what it would take to run a high school football program, at least from where I sit. And man, everything suffers because if you want to do it right, you're consumed by it. Right?
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And really, it's not just, it'd be one thing if it was just me, but I'm asking one of my best friends to be our defense coordinator and go along for the journey with me. I'm asking a staff of people to be invested into what the program's doing, all the players. And it really isn't just and I know you guys know this, and everybody who watches this knows this, but it really is a year-round commitment. And I think for me, anecdotally, personally, the reason that it was probably accelerated the timeline at Henry was just you add in the COVID experience. Right. And for a lot of programs that did what I consider took advantage of that time, meaning that you used every possible avenue to build your program and take advantage of what that kind of lull allowed you to do. We're AAU practicing, you're in a park, you're Zooming. And I really think it helped our program kind of accelerate the timeline for how improved we wanted to be, because we had a great spring and I felt really good about our program where we're at, but it was a massive commitment. And so that probably accelerated the process a little bit, but it was never necessarily a long-term thing. I was never going to coach other kids and not watch my kids play.
And that, I think we've beat that drum enough. I think everybody understands it. Anybody who's been around the sport understands it. But I'd like to ask a question as it relates to what you were able to do at Patrick Henry, because you guys ran a pretty sophisticated attack, and now everybody knows that you're playing lineage and the fact that you understand this game better than most. When I was back in '78, we lined up with splits that were 6 inches apart. We ran 6 plays. The game was deemed too sophisticated to be able to throw the ball at the high school level. But that has been demonstrably proven wrong in 2022. How much can kids at the high school level adapt to modern concepts?
I mean, I appreciate the kind words. I would say a lot. I think, and I'm guilty of this as much as probably anybody who's ever coached anything, is you really bring your own issues when you're teaching, when you're coaching about this is what we used to run or this is how I like to run it. And I thought that we did a great job as we were there for a few years about being really adaptive to be able to say, hey, this is what we have in the program. This is what we identify as our strengths. How can we build around this? And what can that look like for us at our level right now? And we really did that. I think we made big jumps from that first year to year 2 to year 3, and it accelerated. But I really think that, and the thing that I used to tell our players was, hey, we're never going to stop putting stuff in. Like, there is no ceiling to this offense. I can see something on Saturday at a college game and be like, hey, we're running this as the first play this week. That's the part of it that was fun. And we would have players come to me with plays and ideas, and we would try to do it. And so I like that part of it. I'm a fan. I was always a fan of the X's and O's element of it. But I was always honest with our players saying, hey, you have to be able to prove to me that you can handle this, that you're invested in our system, that you're masters, that you're essentially coaches on the field. And because of that time, because of that COVID time and all the meetings and all the way that we had to practice, it really made some really smart football players, and we were able to carry a high volume for the high school level.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't, and you make a good point, because, I mean, playing in, even when I was coaching 2010, 12, even today, you get these coaches that this is what I run, my personnel has to fit into this,
right?
Not I need to fit into them, and that's just impossible in the high school level, because you're not recruiting, drafting, free agency, you're not picking players to fit into your system. It's the opposite way, but a lot of people don't do that. They just stick to that, whatever they run, they run.
Yeah, and I was guilty as that as much as anybody. The first year we were at Henry, we had a good quarterback, and we threw for 3,000 yards, running a bunch of RPOs, and then you come back the next few years, and you're leading the county in rushing. I'm a quarterback. I want to throw it as much as anybody, but I also like to win, and I know that we got to get the ball to the best players as often as possible. And so we just morphed and adapt, and we're able to kind of take advantage of our strengths.
So when you watch an NFL game, are you able just to watch it like Bert and I with a beer in hand, or are you always seeing things? I mean, does that mind shut down ever as far as?
Yeah, it definitely shuts down. And I'll be honest with you, I don't watch a whole lot of live broadcast games just because of kind of what I'm doing now on film wise. And so it's a nice way for me to be able to kind of, relax and just watch the broadcast view and not have to see the all 22 and all the X's and O's to just enjoy it. But yeah, I like watching the ball as much as anybody.
So for your work, for what you do, how long does it take you to get through a game? If you're looking at all 22.
I mean, it depends. I would say, if a video comes out and it's a half an hour, I probably invested 2 hours into the entire process.
That's not bad. Hey, let me ask you a question. And this has I'm not asking if you're going to Oceanside, but, we came up earlier, Oceanside.
We've already been.
I'm not asking that question.
Okay.
I'm asking this question.
Bro, I barely go east of the 5.
It has nothing to do with you. I know it sounds like it does, but it doesn't. But it came up earlier this morning on Good Morning San Diego. And so if I'm at Oceanside, I look at somebody like Damon Baldwin. I want to get Damon Baldwin. But Damon Baldwin has 25 years in his district. Oceanside notoriously will only take up to 10. Is that hurting like San Diego football, that he can't move, or any other coach that's vested in their community because the district won't take their years, and you have to go out and get somebody like you that's a businessman, or Ron Berner at El Cap that's a businessman and not a teacher, and then we complain about not having on-campus teachers. So how does that get fixed?
So that how it gets fixed is way above my pay grade.
Yeah.
But I can definitely tell you that it impacts athletic directors around the county and schools. Whether it's where Oceanside is or San Diego Unified. I know personally there were a number of assistant coaches that I would have loved to have got on campus. I was always looking for on-campus coaches just because I knew that was a blind spot for me. And it impacts all the hiring. I don't pretend to understand, what transfers, what doesn't transfer. I've never been, the educator at the scholastic level, but it definitely impacts it. And you would love to see some sort of ease in the restraints or the restrictions that comes with being able to just go get the best people for the job. And I know that's easier said than done, but man, when it impacts programs like this that are really staples in a community, it's a bummer on so many different levels.
I mean, I look at all the success that John Carroll had in Oceanside.
Yeah.
13 section titles, 2 state rings. I mean, that high school football program was one of the showpieces of the entire community.
Yeah, but I don't know if you can do that anymore. I mean, you know, Oceanside's
well, but the demographics change and I mean, nothing stays the same.
Oceanside looks like La Jolla now. It never looked like that before. I mean, it's been gentrified. But again, you can't. I mean, you can't because of the teachers, you know, their contract labor. You can't do more than 10 years transferring in, and that's just insane because you either take a chance on a young coach that wants to move, that has less than 10 years, or you get somebody like Damon Baldwin or any of the other great coaches that have tenure, and they can't leave their districts anymore. They have to stay at that job forever, which is also good.
Well, you lead me into my question. JT, what coaches out there at the high school level that you encountered in your tenure as a high school coach in the San Diego ranks? What coaches out there you think, hey, that guy's got it?
I mean, there's a lot of great coaches in our area. I'm not telling you anything you guys don't know. I think probably my favorite coach while I was coaching, and probably the guy who gave me the most as far as we could bounce ideas back and forth from each other, was Robbie Owens over at Helix. You know, obviously he actually coached against me in high school or in college, so we knew each other for a long time. Other guys that are still in the area, probably my favorite or the toughest defensive coordinator to go against, in my opinion, is Deontay Lee at Mount Carmel. I think he could have been a head coach many times over and is probably, hopefully, waiting for the right opportunity. And I'm sure Drew would be upset to lose him. But there's a lot of great young coaches in the area that are doing their thing. It's fun for me to be able to see them get their opportunities, whether it be as coordinators, play callers, or head coaches, and flourish.
And you bring up Deontay Lee, and I brought up, you know, I get a lot of slack because I picked Poway over Carlsbad. But to me, Deontay Lee is X and O is a genius to me. I mean, and if you can't draw, I mean, if you look at his game plans, they're just a different level. And he shuts everybody down. But if you get somebody that's really physical, you can't X and O out of that. If somebody's just physically dominating, you can't X and O out of that ever at any level. And I think that's what Poway brings that people don't get on both sides of the line. You know, obviously on the perimeter, there's going to be some problems with speed and skill position, and, you know, Julian's saying, but it's hard to X and O out of a physically dominating, wear you down team.
Coach?
Yeah, I mean, yes. You know, I'm guilty of that as anybody. You know, I would say that that's what we tried to build at Henry when we were at the division that we were at, when we looked across the strengths of our programs about what we could consistently do. And if you can consistently lean on someone at the line of scrimmage, it makes everything else easier, right? Like, we all love to go out there and see the passing numbers and the touchdowns and the ball flying all over the place on Saturdays and Sundays. But sometimes you just want to be as consistent and as powerful as you can possibly be. And if you have that advantage at the line of scrimmage, it's really silly not to do that. In fact, I would flip it a little bit when you talk about who you're picking in that open semifinal. The Carlsbad offense, you know, I'm as guilty as anybody about loving the quarterback position and love what Julian Sain brings to the table. But you go watch them play, and I know I personally, and those coaches probably get, you know, hurty feelings that I would say this, but I get bummed out that they don't throw it more. You know, they still play really balanced football and have a good running attack and try to do that element of what ball is right now in that case. But man, Julian Sain is a special player, and I don't care necessarily what Poway looks like and how they can lean on certain players. They're going to be in for a tough challenge.
So elaborate on that. What makes Sain so special in your view?
Well, I think for where he's at and how much football he's played, he's so smooth and polished. The consistency of his stroke to be able to do whatever he wants and has every club in the bag and be able to create a little bit, you know, all those things together, that's what SEC quarterbacking looks like. That really is. You know, there's a massive difference. Even guys like, you know, Tyler Buckner, who was great in the area for a long chunk, right? It felt like he was here forever. He was a great athlete, is a great athlete, but he doesn't spin it like Julian Sain spins it. It comes off his hand differently. It comes off like that true kind of like five-star consistency, smooth, fluid action that you really see guys at the highest level be able to do consistently.
And you forget looking at him, he's just 17. He's not even a senior, he's a junior, and it's just like, oh, okay.
Boy, it would be so cool if an athlete of that caliber were to stay here and play on the Mesa, because that could turn a football program around, couldn't it?
I mean, maybe. Would you? I mean, like I know people love to have this argument, and I hope that they're on the up everywhere. But I mean, it's easy to choose where you're going to go play football nowadays. Whether it's not a West Coast bias. I'm a California kid as much as anybody. The SEC and really the Big Two at the collegiate level now, with what the Big Ten is evolving into, they're leaving everybody else behind, and the best players want to go play the best competition in the best environments.
And that's another question, Lee. So San Diego State, I mean, it probably eventually go to Pac-12, and the Pac-12 isn't going to be what they were because they'll lose more players probably. How do they compete? I mean, because I think people forget, we just look at basketball and football, but then, I mean, recruits, you have to get NIL deals. I mean, you have to be semi-entertaining on Saturday, or else no one's going to go to stands, no one's going to tune in. People want to bet on you. I mean, it becomes a whole different level. It's a nationwide stage then. I mean, do they have to change a lot of things if they do go into the Pac-12, football-wise, not basketball? I think they're already there, but do you have to? I mean, that's a big change. I mean, isn't it? Your NIL deals can't be Lolitas anymore. Taco shop. I mean, things like that.
I think that there are many levels to that question. Whether you're talking about what they need to change to do to get high 5 4-star guys in there, or what the Pac-12 needs to do football-wise to catch up to the Big Two, all those things are kind of TBD. But for me, when the little I watch of San Diego State football, it's really hard to recruit a quarterback there. I love Ryan. I think he's going to do great things over there if he gets an opportunity. But for you to have a track record of quarterback play and throwing the ball like they do and have for a while, I'm thinking in my head like decade plus now, maybe.
Yeah, at least 12 years.
It's tough. What do you want? I mean, if you're really being honest with yourself, if you're a quarterback who wants to throw it, and I was not a big time quarterback recruit at all. I got no scholarship offers, went to Division II football, but I can tell you the number one thing I wanted to do was go somewhere that was going to spin it. I wanted to go somewhere that was going to throw it. That was the number one thing. And I got really fortunate with where I ended up and the experience I had, but I was not going somewhere where I was going to hand it off. I had enough of that in high school. I was spinning it.
Can we follow that conversation? Because I think a lot of kids, we focus on the Sayans and the Roderick Robinsons and all these guys that are getting these mega offers, but there are more of you than there are of them. And perhaps you could share a little advice on that side of your story, or a little perspective to kids who are watching this, who might be down in the doldrums for, geez, no one's calling me, this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, I can try to. It's difficult because for a number of different factors, from what you all have already talked about the impact of NIL, kind of this unstable element of college football that's probably above the heads of many of these student athletes that are getting recruited, and kind of the uncertainty tethered to that sector of higher education. But when you're talking about, hey, I'm coming out of school, I want to keep playing football, what are your choices? Are you going for the college experience? Do you want to play at the highest level possible? Do you want to play? Do you just need to play? Do you have financial issues tethered to your experience? Because there is great ball everywhere. There really is. I think just because a lot of these young players, young high school students, don't understand how good the ball is, whether it's at USD in the Pioneer League, whether it's in the Big Sky, whether it's at FCS Division II ball, because there is no Division II or Division III ball essentially in California. So you don't get open to those experiences. But for me, it's about going in there with, hopefully you have a great support system to give you those opportunities, to allow you to go explore where you want to go, and just trying to make sure you make the best decision for you, and realizing that there's going to be significant luck into it. There really is. I got extremely lucky with where I ended up, but I really tried to keep my options open and knew exactly what I wanted. I didn't go to a certain couple schools because I knew I didn't want that experience. And so you just open it up, and hopefully you get a lucky opportunity. But I think so many kids, and y'all know this, they get tethered to the brand or the helmet or the logo, and they don't realize that even if you go to that school, your chances of making it to the league are so minuscule. You're really going for the experience and what it's like to be a college athlete, to be a college student, and have that great kind of 4 to 5 year, essentially, pause in life to find yourself.
Did you get a big NIL deal?
No,
at
I
UC
did.
Davis?
No, I know
you went to Wisconsin.
I'm the broadcaster here. I'm not in your guys' league, but I sure do find the life fascinating. And hey.
Hold on, real quick to follow up on that. But I think there's a stigma here. Kids don't realize, and I'm from Pennsylvania, and we have Division II schools everywhere. The JC teams here would beat the brakes off the Division II teams in Pennsylvania and Midwest, but kids still have a stigma not to go to JC. Get hurty feelings to me, but I would even say the stigma is right in how you frame it.
it's not a junior college. It really is a community college. So if you're looking for a college experience and you want to play and you think that you're getting overlooked and that you're getting slept on and you want more film, we've got a player who's at Mesa that I was fortunate enough to talk off the basketball court, is now become a great corner for Mesa, Bennett Walker. Football might change his life. Now, it didn't change his life because he came out to Henry and played 1 year of football, but he's developed and evolved, and now he's going to get that opportunity at a Division I school. And so that's certainly an opportunity. I think people do sleep on the quality of ball. In fact, I'm going to the Mesa Southwestern game this weekend. If you're out there, find me. It's one of those things where I'm excited to see them flourish. I think it's a high level of ball where you can go out there and really showcase your skills and continue to develop. Because for a lot of people, and I don't boo-hoo this opinion, it's about playing at the highest level possible or nothing. If that's your thing, that's you. You do you. That wasn't my thing, and so it's hard for me to relate personally. But if that's your case, community college is a great way to go in California.
And well, I'm sorry.
No, go, please.
And you followed up with, a basketball player that football changed his life. I'm sure every quarterback played baseball. I'm sure you played baseball in high school. Did you?
Yeah.
And we had Jim McMahon on here about a year ago, and he was talking about the decision: do I go play baseball or do I go play football, and which one is it going to be? I mean, did you have that choice, and did you ever regret that choice and say, maybe I should have done baseball?
Hell yeah, you see that guaranteed money in baseball? Yeah, no, I mean, it was one of those things for me, it kind of chose itself. I didn't necessarily get along great with my high school baseball coach. And then when I got to college, I was thinking about doing both and probably could have done both at Davis, or at least attempted to do both. And my college coach pulled a college coach move and said, hey, if you want to play, you're going to have to play spring ball. You're going to have to be here. And I, fell for it as a freshman, and it worked itself out, but I still miss baseball.
Yeah, I mean, JT, I mean, the career speaks for itself. If I said to you, all right, trace your career from the college, could you name every stop along the way without looking it up?
I mean, I probably could. It would be mental gymnastics for me.
Well, just walk us through it.
All right, you put the pressure on?
Yeah.
New Orleans. You want the World League too?
Yeah, we want
everything.
Europe, we want CFL, everything.
And you played in Canada too, didn't you?
Yeah. So I drafted to New Orleans. In between my stop in New Orleans, I went to Galaxy, the Frankfurt Galaxy. I then got traded to Green Bay, cut at Green Bay, picked up by the Bears practice squad, then got picked up by the Vikings active roster. Then
You're staying in division. That's good.
Yeah, it was nice. I was really easy on Wednesdays. I knew everybody. You didn't have to go over the scouting report. I knew every person in the scouting report. From Minnesota, I went to the practice squad for New England and Carolina, then signed back with the Bears, went back to NFL Europe the second time, Frankfurt Galaxy. From there, Mike Martz saw my film, and I got picked up from Detroit, followed him to the 49ers, from the 49ers to Cincinnati, to San Diego, to Oakland, and then finished up in Canada for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who have a great fan base.
Please let me ask.
All right.
How tough was it to adapt to Canadian rules?
I mean, I was always a fan of Canadian ball, and I had friends that were quarterbacks in the league, and so I knew a little bit about it, but I will tell you that I never adapted to how big the playing field is. Like, the throw to the field, to the wide side, is like throwing to the across the parking lot. It was not going to happen for me.
So you have a lot of. I'm just curious. Why did you settle down in San Diego and not Detroit?
Easy choice, huh? My wife is from Coronado, so
Okay.
we were always coming back to San Diego.
JT, do you have memorabilia or a uniform from all those stops?
I probably have some. I don't know about uniform, or I have helmets from certain stops, but usually if I got cut, I would just leave the building because I was so pissed. I didn't necessarily go back to the locker room and
Grab
trash
stuff?
bag it up like a lot of guys do. It was just I probably have bought somewhere some item from every team. Yeah.
So does that having been at all those different places and having to pick up every offensive system, is there anything about the game you don't understand right now? I mean, you've
Oh, I'm sure there is.
So you had one of those doomsday prepper bug out bags at every place you're at. You just go.
I just never unpacked. I got a lot of points at the extended stays, and it was part of the deal, man. I never, and it's even funny for me to joke about it now, but like, I was literally living my dream. Like, I mean, and y'all know, like, so few people get this opportunity. I was just gonna literally suck the bone marrow out of that career, every single thing, because once you're done, you're done, and it's at that. But man, I had a blast while I was doing it.
Oh, JT, I would kill for that experience. I think it's even more impressive than somebody who plays just. Well, the guy sitting next to me. Well, how long? You were there for 6 years.
I got hurt.
Yeah, but still, I would take your career for the richness of experience over his, draft day money.
Well, there was no draft day money, but I mean, maybe you bring it. You probably made more than I did. I was 8th pick in my first year. I made $250,000. Big money. So wait,
you got me on the signing bonus.
Did you got a PhD from USD, right?
Yeah, that was a great experience.
You know what the crazy coincidence? The guy you're tied with, Josh Johnson, for the most teams, also played at USD. You had 15 apiece, I think. Yeah.
I think he's long since passed me.
Has he? I thought he just passed this year with his last one.
I think all his might be NFL teams. I don't know. Either way, Josh has had a great career. I remember watching him in college playing for Harbaugh. Yeah. He was a heck of a player. In fact, USD is a great program, and the commit that they just got, the quarterback from Mater Dei, I'm forgetting his name.
Nankill.
Yeah. He man, watching them play Carlsbad early in the year, he probably had the play of the year. I don't know what you guys selected for play of the year, but man, he had an amazing scramble, creative,
Absolutely.
outside the pocket. It was awesome, man. He's a great player, and USD is fortunate to get him, in my opinion.
I agree.
His escapability is
vision too, just everything. I love that kid.
Yeah.
So I think he's up for Offensive Player of the Year. He was in the Silver Pigskin fan vote. If the refs call offsides on Carlsbad and they actually win that game,
it's a whole different.
He's probably on the podium. JT, are you following our? He probably doesn't know who our
fan vote.
Our Player of the Year. We have 5 guys. We have Sayan from Carlsbad, Robinson from Lincoln. We have the two-way player from U City, Sam Cooper, who you probably have experienced a little bit. And then we had
Connor
Rath, the running back from Poway. And then in the fan vote, Josiah Cox from Lincoln. There are 5 finalists. You're probably going to get a vote if you haven't already cast it. You're certainly going to get a ballot. You're going to be one of 215 people who are going to decide our Player of the Year. I don't know if you're comfortable tipping your hand as to who you would vote for.
I'll tell you for sure. I've seen 4 out of those 5 guys play, and no disrespect for the Poway running back, but Rod at Lincoln is a special player. He's by far, in my opinion, had the best season in the area. Got a chance to see him in person versus Saints, absolutely destroy them, and then come back and beat Madison. And I'll be honest, I'm not that kind of doctor, but it didn't look like he was 100% in that game. No. And he was still the dude out there. And so he's a lot of fun to watch. He's going to be fun to watch at Georgia. I was bummed. I'm friends with the UCLA running backs coach, and I know they were bummed about him deciding to go back to Georgia. But man, he's going to be fun to follow. He's a dynamic, really borderline unstoppable high school athlete.
Well, you want to feel old like Paul and I? This is how we feel. Did you ever in high school come across a running back that physical, fast, and I mean, because he's like Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker size right now. In high school, I mean, it's just evolving so quick.
I don't know
now
how
that
you
it's just like
I'm trying to think of at 178 pounds I was as a senior, how I would bring him down.
Well, Rod's not on JV, so you wouldn't have to face him. You wouldn't have faced him.
You know what?
You're good.
It's okay.
No one thinks you're funny, man.
You're a senior on JV. There's nothing wrong with that.
They said that I was because they had a lot of other players.
Leadership qualities for the young guys.
All right, but I mean, he's almost dangerous to play against. If you're
I mean, I don't know what you do when you're trying to attack him. You just try to get as many people as you can to the ball. But even then, they Lincoln is always going to have that the fun offense with Coach Carter there, dialing them up down the field, taking their shots, and then for them to be able to run the ball like they can run the ball with him is just good luck.
You're 30 minutes over again.
Okay, so that was fun. Hey, the game has evolved. Excuse me for being a giddy little schoolgirl. I get these chance to talk to you once every 10 years. Give me the terminology. Are you a proponent of the long-winded verbiage, trips right, jet motion, rewind motion, blah, 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 and those long 20-syllable play calls, or are you now a proponent of cat?
I mean, I think it depends on the level that you're at. If we're talking about high school, our aspirations at Henry were originally for everything to be one word. It evolved probably to 3 or 4 words just because we evolved into kind of a motion shift offense. But I always loved the capacity to start from the framework of we want to go as fast as possible. So if you're not going fast at high school, you're really, in my opinion, doing your players a disservice because of how the rules operate as far as being able to rotate players on and off the field. So in college, if you switch personnel, they stand over the ball and allow the defense to switch. You're in the league. But in high school, it's like a line shift. You can just run people out. They got no chance about that. And so for me, it's all about being able to control the tempo and then just making sure you're in the best play possible. So I love teams that operate under what I call peak tempo, where you see them kind of hustle up to the line of scrimmage, do a snap count, and then everybody looks over to the side, to get into the best play, because most defenses don't have the capacity to change the defense as fast as the offense can change a play. And so, those kind of short plays are kind of my favorite way to communicate and play football at a high level.
So walk me through what's happening there, because that's what Lincoln does. That's what modern day does. They get up to the line of scrimmage, and then they all look at their watch at the same time, and then look over. What is going on there? Walk me through.
Yeah.
Just give me a play call.
This is just me. Well, I don't necessarily know exactly how those schools do it. I never liked the wristband. Okay, now this is going to hurt some people's feelings, but I just don't like the wristband because I feel like it makes things too confined. I like to be able to kind of change things on the go. And so once it's on the wristband, it's on the wristband. You got to run it like that. Right. And it's fine. And most of those teams will just look over and yell like color number, and it tells everybody what to do. And it's certainly a way to do it. I personally was a big fan of, and people, even coaches on the staff, when we first got to Henry, would say, we're not going to be able to do this, but we just made everybody learn the signals. So everybody looks over, everybody knows the signals, whether you play guard or you play quarterback, everybody knew every signal. And so it wasn't that complicated. I don't know why people think it's that complicated. It takes a little bit of time and investment, but I thought it was going to give us a strategic advantage on what we were able to do and carry, and kind of the in-game adjustments that you see, as opposed to if you go wristband, those whatever number of plays, that's all you got all game.
I'm going to ask you one last question, because this probably, because, I have to go to the sidelines, and we all have to listen to fans, in the stands. So I'll be at a Lincoln game, and, Jason Carter always notorious. He'll come out the first couple series in 18, shifts and motions at a time, just see where the defense adjusts and what they do to line up to it. The fans start yelling, why are you moving around so much? Run the play. And it's like, you must get, you have to hear it in the stands. Like, some of the stuff is the craziest stuff you hear in your life it's like, did you play football at, Pop Warner ever? How do you deal with that as a head coach when you're hearing it come down?
I will say I had a few different tricks of the trade. The first trick of the trade is to go what I'm doing right here and go double headset on the earphones. The next set is really, it really starts in the off season, but it certainly starts at the start of training camp, where you have that meeting with your parents, where you basically say, hey, here's our role as a coach. We're the educator, we're the teacher, we're creating this experience for your student. Here's your role as the parent. It's to love, it's to support. It's not to holler at me, because I used to tell them that I'm a terrible listener, but I hear everything. And so you be really careful about what you're shouting, because it'll eventually will get back to me.
Hear that?
That's chilly. That's chilly.
One more thing. What happened to your shoe game? When you were coaching, you had a great shoe game, and now I see you and you got you look like me now.
Oh man, come on, bro. Next time you see me at a game, make sure you pull up and we can compare anytime.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm about to what game are you going to this week?
Oh, I always let my oldest son, he's 12, he gets to pick, but I'm probably going to lean on him for the Coronado game, just because it's right down the street, just because we've been going off the island, I feel like, every other week. So we'll see. I'm excited to see.
You won't see me there then.
Yeah, I probably won't see you there. But
you're not going to go see Rod and Madison?
I was at that game a couple weeks ago. Okay. And it was fun. I personally, I don't want to hurt any feelings over at Lincoln, but I really, really like that Madison team.
I like their defense.
They're my favorite team for that group of players, because we played against them in the spring of COVID, that COVID spring, and I'm still hurting about what happened with that game. But man, it was basically the same core unit, and those dudes are really good players. Coach Jackson's son is one of my favorite players to watch in the area. He's a super talented, just athlete in general. And so hopefully, they can find a way to pull that thing out and make it a good game.
JT, of all the every year when we come out with our categories, there's a level of social media abuse that you have to kind of gear up for. The one school that I think has a legitimate beef with the names we selected is Madison, because there are about 5 or 6 guys that did not get proper acknowledgement.
Yeah, and they have a D lineman there that's really, really good. But he's a junior, so we try. We do put juniors, but you try to stay with seniors.
But if the school that I felt worst about was Madison. I agree with you, JT. I think They're going to be good.
Well, just before you guys cut me off here, I'm going to say I want to make sure that I kind of like publicly thank you all, because I know how much our players love this show, this broadcast, what you guys do to the community. My son, it's a staple. He stays up every Friday night to watch it. It's one of his highlights to ever kind of sneak on the back end of one of those on-field celebration shots. It's just a great community thing that brings people together, and I certainly want to make sure y'all appreciate how much we enjoy it and appreciate what y'all do.
So tomorrow night or Friday night, what are you going to wear? The Shaqs from Walmart?
Oh,
for the shoe game?
It's a Jordan game, man. If it's a game day, it's some element of the Jays.
Well, the Shaqs at Walmart are kind of knockoff. They look. You could probably pull it off. Just try it, or get some N1s.
No,
I'll take your word for that.
JT, thank you for the love. Thank you for the time. I'm a fan, as you know, and I appreciate it a lot.
Longest one ever. Look at that. Wow.
Well,
Oh, God.
I mean, and I didn't even get to my questions because I wanted to ask a lot of technical X and O stuff. But
all right.
Well,
hey, can you do it again maybe sometime?
Reach out anytime. You got my number. I'm happy to support you guys any way I can.
All right. God bless. Have a good holiday, and I'll see you when I see you. Okay.
See you guys.
JT O'Sullivan. This podcast is now over.